Well, I am delighted to welcome Jedy. Jedy is a Buddhist monk, and we had the wonderful joy of meeting a few years ago. Welcome, Jedy.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
It's such a joy. Jedy has got an incredible story, and he's also embarking on quite a adventure in the year to come. But we'll hear a bit more about that later.
Yeah.
So you are in Lancaster at the moment.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Okay.
Lancaster. Lovely and cold here at the moment.
Yes. We have a wonderful temperate 22 degrees outside this morning. Mary Ann and myself took a dip quickly this morning in the ocean. So opposite weather from the northern to the southern hemisphere. But we lived in England for a decade, for quite a few years, and so we know what the weather is like there as well. Jedi, we had an encounter or a meeting that I could only describe as divinely appointed and orchestrated.
Oh, it was a beautiful time. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that moment. Yeah.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll give a little perspective and tell the story from my point of view of how we got together, and then I'm going to hand over to you, and then we'll discuss it a bit further.
Sure.
I think it was 2016, and we travel a lot ministering, and this was one of the rare occasions where I actually traveled on my own. Mary Ann was looking after a project here in Hermanus, and I remember I was with a beautiful group in Windermere, and after one of the sessions, I kind of flopped down on my bed and I picked up my Kindle. And the Kindle gives you adverts of different books every now and then. And up pops this book, Zen and the Birds of Prey, I think, from Thomas Merton. So I knew nothing about Zen, but I knew Thomas Merton, so I thought, that's something interesting. Downloaded it, started reading. And I think I was on chapter 2 when I had a notification on my phone. And it was the minister in Lancaster that I was going to be with the next week. And he basically said something like this: we've got a Zen community who's reached out to us, want to start the conversation, and I don't know what to do with this, but seeing that you coming, would you be able to do this? And it was for me such a moment that, yeah, I just read a whole few chapters, and now I have this invitation. So I kind of just sense the hand of the Lord in this whole thing. So I obviously responded, yes, let's do it. And he put us into contact. And you invited us to a meeting. I think it was the next Thursday. I invited my whole community of friends from Windermere to join me. And I remember that evening knocking on the door of the Zen Center there in Lancaster. You opened the door, asked, "Are you Andre?" And you gave me this big, warm hug beyond what I was comfortable with. Actually, so good. And we had an incredible time that evening. I remember because we came with just such an openness as to where can this conversation lead. And when I asked, what shall we do? Shall we ask questions? I think it was Elam that said, could you tell us about Jesus? And that was such a surprise. But I think at the same time, what has happened to me over many years was the realization that Jesus didn't just come to confirm our religious convictions about who God is or who we are, but he came to question all our answers. He came to bring our ideas about God to an end. In any case, we had a wonderful conversation, and she mentioned at the end that for the past week, as you've been doing your meditations and songs, that Jesus appeared, and that's when she handed over to you, and you spoke about I call it a vision, whatever you want to call it, but you had the encounter with Jesus that morning. Let me hand over to you, and you continue from there.
Yes, it was a very special time for all of us here. And 2016, how time flies.
Yes. Does.
But yes, I was brought up a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I was baptized as a Christian, and when I turned 17, I started to wonder about my own way in life,
Mm-hmm.
and I became a Buddhist.
Yes.
And my mother was a little bit concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So 1982, we didn't have any of the internet thingies.
Yes.
So she was a little bit concerned, didn't know anything about what Buddhism was, especially what Zen was.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got this sort of mystique in a little way of being very esoteric.
Yes.
A bit out there. So she was a little bit concerned, went to the local vicar of the church, asked his his opinion on what she should do, and fortunately, very, very luckily, he was quite an enlightened vicar.
Yeah.
So he said, don't worry about him.
Wow.
It'll be good. It'll be good for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't say, what on earth are you doing? Get him out of there quick. He said, I think he knew that we're all doing the same thing. We're all on the same journey.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, don't worry. And she thought maybe he said, it'll either be a lifelong journey or it'll be over in 2 weeks.
Yes.
I think she knew it was going to be a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to Zen.
Mm-hmm.
Now we come to our meeting. It was something both me and Elham is my partner,
Mm-hmm.
Runs the Torah Center where you came to.
Yeah.
We both hold that as one of the most special moments that we've had in the Torah Center.
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful thing, and so the hug was a hug from here, of course.
Yes.
And I'm pleased it made you feel awkward.
I've grown much more fond of those hugs that go beyond the normal time limit.
Well, isn't that what we do in life? We just hold a mirror up to people,
Mm.
that's what I see as my role, is just to hold a mirror up to people, to the world, and just let it see itself.
Yes.
So you saw a bit of awkwardness, and that's fantastic. It allows it to, it allows people to do something about things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so when we all sat down, I'm sure there was quite a lot of there was a bit of electric tension in the air.
There was.
What was going to happen? What do we've got some Buddhists on one side, we've got some Christians on the other side, we've got some agnostics in the room, and that was a whole great melting pot, and it just allowed something really wonderful to brew.
Yes.
So the time before our meeting, something was definitely brewing up inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, I was brought up as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Sunday school, and I have to say, I went because I was told to.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't had any really deep meetings with Jesus before
Yeah.
he showed himself in the Torah Center,
Yeah.
and it was what I call a true vision.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was right there in front of me,
Yes.
as you are here. There is no difference.
Mm-hmm.
I was sat in meditation on my own, and in the room, and so I was sat on the floor. I just opened my eyes, and guess who was in front of me? And it was just a few feet in front of me. Now, the most remarkable thing is what I was told, but I was told without words. There was no audible words. All the words, all the feeling of it was here.
Mm-hmm.
The words were here, direct. And it was a feeling of just utter love, of course.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that happened was there was a cross. Jesus was holding a small cross in his hand, and that was like showing me here, here, here. What was here? What was understood from that was he wasn't showing me a way of like become a Christian.
Yeah.
Get rid of that Buddhist stuff.
Yeah.
No, wait, it wasn't that. It was a complete opposite of that. It was this is just a symbol. This isn't an outward symbol. Don't take notice of the outward symbols of the teachings. The teachings that I teach, the teachings that Jesus is teaching.
Mm.
The teachings of all the great teachers. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So he was reminding me in a way to to not to focus on like in Buddhism we have this saying of um, the teachings, the practice is like a finger pointing at the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Now most people focus their attention on the finger. The finger is the teaching.
Mm-hmm.
The moon is our relationship with God.
Yeah, that's the
The
essence.
moon is God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all get hung up on this.
Yes.
The finger is religion.
Yeah. And
The
all its
finger is
symbols.
it's just a path that you walk.
Yeah.
It's just religion is just a technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a um, just a path.
Yeah.
The religion, the finger doesn't hold
Yeah.
the moon. The moon
Yeah.
holds the finger. So that was what I was getting from those visions. And
Yeah.
there were many. It wasn't just the
Yeah.
one, and it wasn't just the one before you
Yeah.
came. There was many afterwards as well.
Yes. I remembered one of the things you said as well is that as you were singing your mantra, um, the community, Zen community had such a precious encounter with the Lord, and although I knew it was going to make my Christian family, some of them, a bit uncomfortable, I said, "Well, seeing that Jesus shows up while you're singing your mantra, would you teach us that mantra?" And one of my friends asked, "Can you please first tell us what it means?" And as far as I remember, the kind of essence of the message was source of our existence. We acknowledge you. We see your face. We embrace your beauty,
Yeah,
and we could all and that's a song that, that's a mantra that was written before there was even any Jewish scriptures, before there was a Jewish nation. It's ancient.
yeah, yes, yeah,
I'm so glad God didn't wait for the Bible before he started speaking to people. People have had encounters with God in their unique way as long as there has been people around. And we all
absolutely.
recognized in those words that for us, this face of the source of our existence was modeled in the person of Jesus. But as you say, that's again that symbol that draws us to this underlying reality. And so we all sang that mantra together as we held hands with one another and experienced this beautiful unity in such a precious way.
Yeah,
Yeah. We I know that it made such an impact on the community in Windermere, and we actually, in the years to come, as we went and ministered there again, had the privilege of you doing a tea ceremony with us and a number of meditations there. But that evening, if I go back to that, I remember going back to my room that evening and just saying, "Lord, what happened here?" And one of the first stories that came to mind was from the book of Acts. Now, before we went, you told us that your name, Jedy, is gardener of compassion, as far as I remember.
it is Jite. Yes, it
Yes,
means it's a Japanese. It's my Japanese ordination name.
yes.
Compassionate gardener.
And as I was lying on my bed, I suddenly, this story was brought to mind, and it's found in Acts 10, where there was a person called Cornelius who was not a Jewish believer, neither was he a Christian, but he involved himself with compassion. And so he had this encounter with a messenger of God. We call it the angel. You can just see it as God communicating in a specific way. And this angel said, God has seen your compassion. And immediately the thing that just stirred within my heart is, when you involve yourself with compassion, you're involving yourself with God, whether whether you hold to this tradition or this terminology or this teaching. And so through this encounter, the angel tells him how to get a hold of Peter. Now, Peter, he can't yet think about a message or that expands beyond his community. I mean, for him, this message is for the Jews and now for the Christian community. And he needs a vision to actually open his heart to go to Cornelius. And he has this vision where he sees a sheet coming down, and it's full of the kind of foods that they were forbidden to eat within his religion. But the message says, take, eat. And he refuses. And it has to happen 3 times. Thankfully, God is persistent and persuasive. But after the 3rd time, there's the knock at the door, and these messengers from Cornelius comes and tells him the whole story. The next day he goes through and he does something that he has never done before, because his religion forbade him to put foot in the house of a Gentile. But thankfully, this whole encounter with God expanded his heart. And as he steps into Cornelius's house, he says, God has shown me not to call any man unholy or unclean. And suddenly this message expands beyond their little Jewish clan, beyond their little Christian clan, to say, we are busy with a universal love that embraces every person that's already involved with God because they're involved with compassion.
Yeah.
And so many other texts started opening up for me. For instance, in Ephesians, there's a beautiful passage that speaks about the essence of Jesus's mission was to break down every dividing wall. And he uses the language of Jews and Gentiles because that was the biggest dividing wall for them. You know, we've got the correct teaching from God, and those people are outside. And yeah, the author of Ephesians says, well, Jesus has broken down that dividing wall and has created within himself one new man. So the essence of his message was always this underlying, universally applicable, relevant love that will find you no matter your tradition, no matter your religion, no matter your background. That might be ways in which you try and understand or misunderstand God, but God goes beyond all of that and reveals himself to whoever is open to that revelation.
Yes, and you reveal yourself
Mm-hmm.
through that,
Yeah.
and that's equally as important.
Yes.
Revealing yourself,
Yeah.
because there's no difference.
Yes.
There's no difference.
Mm.
So we have to realize that in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what what we're here for, isn't it? It's to
Yes.
realise that in ourselves,
Yeah.
to let go of um, well, I teach the teachings of Jesus are so succinct in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Teachings of Jesus for me are a pathway
Mm-hmm.
as well. The Sermon on the Mount
Mm-hmm.
for me is the most beautiful of the teachings of Jesus. The Beatitudes. There's nothing that grasps that teaching as firmly
Yeah.
as as, um, as that, and it's such a the way that Jesus taught is very similar to the way that a lot of other people have taught. You know, that Sermon on the Mount was a voice to to people that this was starting to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Like the teaching before that was the teaching of the masses was okay, love your neighbor,
Mm.
and do that. Be nice to people.
Mm.
The Beatitudes were guided to a particular person who wants to step into the love of Jesus.
Yeah.
So it was a in these days people would call it the more advanced teaching,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the pure teaching. It
Yeah.
is the teaching. It's and in this world the teaching of religion is for the masses is to um, be happy.
Mm.
It's to please will you see everybody as your neighbor and be kind. Just be kind.
Yes.
If you do nothing more, just be kind. But if you really want to take on the teaching of what Jesus was saying and what the Buddha was saying, exactly the same thing, by the way, exactly the same thing.
Mm.
Um, for me, it comes down to two things: humility, live your life with humility, and live your life with dedication.
Mm-hmm.
So those two words really, for me, sum up
Yeah.
the Beatitudes: humility, dedication,
Yes.
and that that is the essence for me.
Yes. And certainly all spiritual teachers throughout the ages have come to the conclusion that the more you learn and know, the more you realize how little you know. So humility is, I think, a natural consequence of honestly pursuing truth.
Yeah.
But yet the pursuit is so worth it because you suddenly realize that in the actual experience of God, you do encounter a reality that's both inexhaustible, so you're never going to completely formulate it or grasp it, but it is also an experience that not only unveils our own inner value and meaning and worth, but something that puts us in a relationship with our world that is beneficial. And yeah, that needs dedication. And that makes me think of this pilgrimage that's coming up for you. Something quite unique that hasn't been done for a very long time. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I like a good walk.
Hmm.
I've done quite a few pilgrimages
Hmm.
um, over the past few years. I've walked the length of the country, peace pilgrimages, and I see a lot of problems. You know, my Dharma name, my name is Jedy, which means compassionate gardener. But over the years, I've come to take it as cultivating compassion.
Hmm.
So that obviously that's in myself, but
Yes.
more importantly, outwards in the world,
Mm.
and seeing the pain in the world, which is a part of compassion, is to recognize the pain in something and want to do something about it.
Mm.
That's that's what compassion is. That's what it means. Um, so I've been open to the world. We've gone through a thing called COVID
Hmm.
recently. Has brought up a lot of um, never mind spiritual angst, but emotional um, stress, anxiety, the trauma of all that. You know, this thing
Mm.
overtaking everything else,
Mm.
and it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. There is so much of a, a warmer way to live life, and it seems to be the way that this world has been going is to live from this
Mm.
instead of from here a little bit more.
Yes.
So what can I do about it? Can I save the world?
Mm.
Um, Jesus saved the world. The Buddha saved the world. And you know, everybody that goes through the spiritual pathway, they save the world because they have a union with God.
Mm.
And one of the great things about that is that because of that, there is this thing like imagine a candle that radiates light.
Hmm.
Well, that happens in all different ways. That happens here.
Mm.
You can radiate love from here,
Yeah.
and you don't need to do anything. You
Yes.
just be who you are,
Mm.
and it all just you're a beacon of love,
Yeah.
beacon of compassion. So what I've been noticing is that we've had meditation classes
Mm.
for people who are living up here
Yeah.
and who live with stress and anxiety. And but people like very quick fixes these days.
Yeah.
And as soon as they start to feel a little bit better, you know, meditation does work with showing you what stress is, what anxiety is. But as soon as people feel a little bit better, it all goes.
Yes.
So coming back to that word again, determination,
Mm.
and dedication. the only way that we can live our life in a different way is to dedicate ourselves to moving forward
Mm-hmm.
on a path. If we want to be more heart centered, we have to dedicate our time, our life to that. It doesn't just happen. I mean, there are a handful of lucky people in the world where it happens instantly.
Yes.
That they don't have to work at it, and it just happens. But for the vast majority of people, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience. So this pilgrimage is about that. It's about the spiritual pathway requires dedication. You don't get anything without dedication.
Yeah.
So I have a Zen background.
Mm-hmm.
Zen is looked on as quite an extreme pathway,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's come in through this pilgrimage. It's something that hasn't been attempted in 1,000 years in the West.
Wow.
In the past 450 years in Japan, so it's been going for 1,000 years in Japan.
Okay.
For the past 450 years, only 51 monks have ever managed to do it.
Wow.
This great path of dedication. It's a
Yeah.
7-year pilgrimage.
7 years. Wow.
So it's a 7-year pilgrimage of. They're actually called marathon monks.
Okay.
So every day for 200 days, I'll be walking the length of a marathon,
Okay.
26 miles every day. Now, it's not just walking, it's walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's walking with the ego out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's walking hand in hand with God
Mm-hmm.
for probably 8 hours a day
Yeah.
for over 6 months a year.
Wow.
So I'll do that 26 miles for years 1 to 5,
Yes.
and then the 6th year it's 40 miles a day
Wow.
for 200 days,
Yeah.
and then the 7th year it is 52 miles a day.
That is amazing. That is,
So that's
yeah.
and then after the 5th year there is the hardest part is after the 5th year. There is
Yes.
a solo um, a solo retreat.
Yes.
So a solitary retreat for 9 days, without food, water, sleep, or rest. Sat in meditation for 9 days.
Wow.
That brings you to the edge of life.
Yes. Yes. And even as you speak, I just want to throw it in here because I know a lot of our audience might think, but why do that? And then one of the examples that just comes to mind is the years in which Paul, after his encounter with Jesus, kind of disappeared and no one knew where. And it was a desert. And I think it is that that inward journey, that inward walking, as you
Yeah,
explained as
yeah,
well, that brought him to a place that had an outward effect, but very
yeah.
often uh, people want such, you know, specific measures as to what is the effect. But these things are measured, can't be measured by the normal ways. The effect of encountering God, as you implied, has a ripple effect, and the influence in your community and beyond, that is not always easily measurable by any other means. So, and by the way, before Jedi speaks again, I just want to say that I'm going to put his website address under this video in YouTube. If you want to go and see more about it or support him with that, please do so. Thanks, Jedi.
Thank you. So yes, and don't forget what I've just mentioned about the Beatitudes as well, about the
Yes.
Sermon on the Mount for two different people.
Mm,
So the walk itself is an inspiration
mm,
for the masses. Let's say
yes.
um, this man, um, I'll be 60 next year.
Mm,
I'll be the oldest person to ever start this thing.
mm.
Um, this man who will be quite an old man by the time it finishes. um, he's doing this. Why is he doing this? He's doing this to show me that if I dedicate my life to something, then life is worthwhile.
Mhm,
If you dedicate your life to something, then this doesn't have to be in the way.
mhm,
So it's an inspiration to people to be the very, very best that they can.
mhm.
But also there's a much deeper meaning to it. So this is the teaching of the top of the mount. Again, dedication. If you dedicate yourself to the spiritual path, your journey is all inward.
Mhm.
This path, this pilgrimage is a pilgrimage inside my heart.
Mm,
It is not of the external. 26 miles a day doesn't mean anything. 52 miles a day doesn't mean anything. It's every step, one step at a time in here,
mm.
and one step at a time walking in the presence of God.
Mhm.
That's it.
Well, I hope that in the next year or in the coming years, because you're going to be dedicated to this for a few years to come, but I hope that next year we'll manage another tour to the UK and we're going to find you. Maybe it will be on that path, but it would be such a joy to walk a portion of that with you and experience.
I may be a little bit thinner by then.
Yeah. Well, Jetta, what an absolute joy to reconnect with you again, and know that even beyond all the words, beyond all the ideas, what we have experienced is a union, an experience of God that transcends all those categories and teachings and explanations. So,
But this is the way things should be.
yes.
To recognize that okay, every single person has their own path.
Hmm.
Every person has their own version of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
of the Buddha, of Christianity, of Buddhism.
Yes.
Every single person has their own version of that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that everything has to be different.
Yes.
We're all walking the same path. We're
Mm-hmm.
all walking with the same God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's people feel comfortable calling it different things. That's all.
Yes, yes. It
That
reminds me
is
of
all.
Jesus saying, there's a lot of people saying Jesus, Jesus, but they don't know me. And then in another case, these disciples came to him and said, "Oh, these people are doing things and in your name, but they don't know." And he said, just leave them. I mean, if they're doing good, we're busy with the same thing. Don't be so,
Exactly.
can I, can I use a real theological term? Don't be so anal that you can't actually embrace that broader reality beyond your terminology. No, I so appreciate that, Jedy. And we look forward to being with you and Alam again in the future. Please send her our love as well. And thank you for the time today.
Thank you very much. It's always lovely talking to you.
So,
It's always lovely.